So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Spain forms an empire. Now I've recently restarted the Empire series and we've done a lot of countries in the past couple weeks, but now it's Spain's turn. So Spain has been known for having a notorious empire in history, such as like literally the entire South American continent other than Brazil, and then a good chunk of North America. With this in mind, we can safely assume that Spain is probably good at making their empires. So let's go ahead and jump into this scenario. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. It helps the channel grow. And yeah, so in right here we're going to be having Spain, and throughout this entire video Spain will remain the color of red and everything that Spain attacks will be blue. So talking about Spain's empire here, they're not in a very good situation. They're surrounded by extremely powerful countries or countries with extremely powerful allies. We have Portugal, strong country, France, strong country, and Morocco, strong country. You know, there's also Italy, strong, Algeria, strong. And yeah, they're not in the best of areas. Typically in my empire videos, I like to buff countries in order to give them an upper advantage against other countries. So I'm going to be doing that with Spain. I'm also going to be disbanding all world alliances. So the UN, which is an alliance, NATO, the EU, all that stuff has been disbanded. And with that in mind, we have Spain declaring war on Portugal. So with this, Spanish troops start their advance into the country in hopes of capturing Lisbon. We have Spanish troops mainly focusing on pushing over to the city, but we also have operations out of Galicia and as well as southern Spain. Eventually, Spanish troops push over to Lisbon and are on the outskirts of the city. They manage to fully encircle it, and up north they continue their push. Spanish troops eventually sink across all of the borders of Spain, and Portugal has been split into two. With this, northern Portugal has been encircled and is eventually wiped out, while the south is to soon meet the same fate. Eventually Lisbon falls, and with this Portugal surrenders. Alright, so taking a look at this peace treaty here, Spain has fully annexed Portugal and as well as all of its islands, so I should probably color those in. Alright, so these Portuguese islands, which I forgot the name of, are now Spanish. I know these are the Canary Islands, but I don't know what those are called. But yeah, anyway, Spain now annexes Andorra. Literally no one does anything about it because Andorra is a very tiny country. And yeah, so Spain has technically annexed two countries now. But they're not done. And you know, the conquistadors, they were relevant in history, that is. So they're going to be more relevant even now because they declare war on Morocco. Now Spain actually has some exclaves along the coast of Morocco, but they're so tiny and insignificant that we can assume that there would be nobody there. But Spain sends its navy and troops across the Strait of Gibraltar and makes a landing in northern Morocco. At first, Spain mainly focuses on capturing the flatter areas, so they move around the tiny mountain range that is right here. They push down and around and start capturing the coast, and eventually they start to near Rabat. I don't know how they pronounce that right. Okay, I did it right. Surprisingly, I did it right. But yeah, their capital is about right there. That's an estimation. Actually, I think it's on the water. It's somewhere in there. But anyway, they are now on the outskirts of that city. We then have the Spanish Navy making another landing off the coast of Morocco and eventually making a campaign pushing in that's also hugging up against the mountain range that lies right here. So geographically, Morocco has a large mountain range that lies just, you know, kind of separating the southern half of the country from the northern half. Its most largest point is definitely in towards the center, and it's a little less mountainous over here, but there are still mountains there nonetheless. So Spain hugs up against those while also pushing north in order to hit the capital from two sides. We also have a landing off the Canary Islands into southern Morocco, although this is just a front to capture the coast, and the main fighting force is stuck up north. A spearhead is eventually made which encircles the capital, and slowly but surely Spain starts to wither away the Moroccan army that is captured in the city. On the main front line though, we have Spain advancing up in order to push against the mountain range. They start to do so pretty successfully, and eventually they manage to cut off a large group up north. Luckily for this group though, they do make a push to get out, but they do have heavy losses. And with this, we have a lot of northern Morocco being sieged by Spain. Now this isn't good because this is some of the most important land that Morocco has, and to add pain to the wound, we have Algeria joining this war on their own side. Now, as of recently, I've heard bad relations between Morocco and Algeria have broken out. I don't think there's ever been good relations between the two countries, and it has something to do with Israel, I think. So yeah, it would be an interesting war. But with Algeria joining, we are sure to have a much more brutal outcome. We have Spain and Algeria signing a non-aggression pact, and with this, Algerian troops start to flood into Morocco. Now Algeria is mainly focused on capturing the upper half of Morocco, but they are also interested in getting access to the Atlantic Ocean, so they push over and cut Spain off from Spain. And with this, the two army groups push in and completely manage to capture all of southern Morocco. So with that under control in the south, we have the capital of Morocco finally falling to Spain, and with this we have a sweep through, pushing through the mountains and down the coast. Up north we have Spanish and Algerian troops meeting in the northern coast. Eventually, after a large amount of fighting, we have Morocco surrendering to Spain. Now Morocco has been divided up pretty interestingly here. Obviously we have Spain annexing a majority of the land since they're the ones that invaded Morocco, but we also have Algeria getting a lot of land out of this. So Spain and Algeria make an agreement to kind of just annex what they've taken. Alright, so Spain's empire is definitely coming along here, but they did just get a new exclave, which I'm sure they're not going to like, and this may lead to tension between these two countries in the future, but for now they are peaceful, and for now they are improving their relations. So now Spain has made a considerably large empire. Well, larger than what it was. We have all of Iberia under one country, and then we have a good portion of Morocco under Spanish rule. But once again, we have Spain meeting the threat that is, they are surrounded by stronger countries. They had that recent peace agreement with Algeria, and France is probably just as strong as Spain, so that would be a very interesting war. And then also, mountains are right here, so no one would really be able to make advances. But now we're looking down south again, and Spain is looking to expand their coast in Africa. Now, Western Sahara is a kind of controversial country. I don't really know how I group it. I don't know if it's Moroccan, if it's independent, or this country. I don't know. I don't care. And I'm just gonna, for the sake of this scenario, I'm gonna say that it's independent. So with this, we have Spain saying no to that statement and declaring war on the country. They push down and cut a majority of the country off, but there's literally nobody over here, so it falls pretty quickly. And from there, they start to near Western Sahara's capital. So Spanish troops sweep in from the south and encircle the city. Eventually, the suburbs of the city fall, and then we have the overrunning of the capital. From here, Spanish troops snake down the coast, and after having the fewest amount of casualties in their conquest so far, we have Western Sahara surrendering. Alright, peace treaty, full annexation, nothing new here. So now, Spain has been invading a lot of countries in Africa, and a lot of Islamic countries at that. So we have a lot of these countries in Northern Africa and the Middle East kind of speaking out against Spain, and maybe, you know, a coalition could form against them, and we could have Islam back in Iberia. So Spain decides to kind of back off and go somewhere else. Now that somewhere else is over in the Americas, and that certain someone is the Dominican Republic. The Navy is banned near the country while staying in international waters, and with this we have the Dominican Republic basically just accepting its fate. Spain declares war, and that navy pushes in. The Spanish land on the eastern tip of the island and start to push over, while also making a landing on the northern end. There's a big mountain right here, so they avoid that area, but eventually they encircle the capital of the Dominican Republic, and yeah, we have the capital of these countries being very close to Spain, which isn't good for them. But after fighting a little bit more and capturing all of the coast, we have like no moral in anybody living here, and they all surrender. And now Spain has a colony over here in the Americas. So with Spain now in the Americas, we have the United States taking an interesting approach to this expansion. Normally the US would probably be against Europeans coming back to the Americas, but here we have an interesting deal breaking out between these two countries. Basically, they meet in the Dominican Republic and devise a plan to get rid of all of the countries in which they don't like in the Americas. Now, they make a list of countries which they will invade together, which include Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. There's also plans to overrun Haiti and to put a new government in place which will hopefully fix the Haitian crisis. And with this, we have the US and Spain readying their militaries in order to overthrow these countries. The first country on their list is Venezuela. So after a couple months of preparing for the entire plan, we have the United States and Spain declaring war on Venezuela. Now, these countries really weren't looking for a naval war. Readying their navies and invading them via an amphibious invasion wouldn't be the hardest thing for these countries, but it's not preferable. So they have their ally of Colombia joining the war. With this, American and Spanish troops that are already stationed along the border start their advance into the country. Their first goal is to capture northern Venezuela, which they do so pretty easily, and their next goal is to push up against the mountain range that lies about here. So with an overwhelmed and not prepared Venezuela, we have the red team doing a significant amount of damage here. We also have Colombian troops pushing in from the south, and one giant front line is made up against Venezuela. We even have a landing of Spanish troops near Trinidad and Tobago, and yeah, Venezuela is really getting hurt here. And just to make that hurting hurt even more, we have Brazil joining the war in order to hurt Venezuela. At this point, you should all feel bad for Venezuela because it's really ugly. And I'm just gonna skip to the part where, you know, it gets divided up. So yeah, poor Venezuela. They just They didn't really stand a chance. But now we have the peace conference, in which Brazil is invited to, obviously, and they make a plan to divide up these borders so they don't look horrible. Alright, so looking at this treaty, we have the Venezuela being divided into three, one Brazilian, one Colombian, and then Spain getting the rest. Now the US probably would have gotten something here, but since their main goal was to overthrow the Venezuelan government, they've achieved just that. Venezuela is now a colony of Spain, and Spain has allowed for America to set up their own little puppet government there. So eventually this colony could become an American colony, or could gain independence, something like that. But it's controlled by Spain, but influenced by America. So next up on their hit list is Haiti. Now Haiti is really just not. We'll just spare you the pain. All right, next up we have Cuba. This is going to go as well as you think it is. We have Spain and the United States declaring war on Cuba. We have each country making its own landing, and the US swiftly capturing Havana. With this, we have both Spanish and American troops sweeping through the country, although it is being heavily supplied by Russia. But it doesn't matter because they're literally in the backyard of the United States, and they are very much overwhelmed. All right, peace treaty wise, we have Venezuela being annexed by the United States. So you might be curious as to why Spain didn't get anything out of this, and that's because it's part of the deal with the US. In that deal, they outlined that the United States would be allowed Cuba and a government in Venezuela, and in return Spain would be allowed Haiti and all of Nicaragua. So now they go after the final country on the list, which is once again Nicaragua. Now Costa Rica is a neutral country, but they might have done some sneaky things and allowed military access for the US and Spain. So using that to their advantage, they start to push in. Troops push up the coast and as well as up the other coast. There's a big lake right here, not shown on this map. There's also a little one right there in the capital of Nicaragua, which is Managua, I think, sits right there. So with that in mind, we have modern blitzkrieg. The US captures the city and Spain focuses on the coast. There's a big mountain range up north here, but that doesn't matter because we have the capitulation of Nicaragua. And in the peace treaty, Nicaragua becomes a colony of Spain. So these two countries have helped out each other a lot here, and honestly, it's been, like I said, beneficial for both. So now that the plan has been completed, we have the US going back to being neutral, and Spain is left with a very large empire that consists of Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, which is North America, and then South America. So if you really think about it, Spain is in every continent except for obviously Antarctica, Asia, and then Australia, which isn't the name. I don't know. It's weird because in American schools, or at least they used to call it Australia for the entire continent. Now, usually when they showed us a map, it would only include Australia. So New Zealand, I guess, didn't exist, or neither did Papua New Guinea. But they used to just call this a continent, Australia. Since then, they usually refer to it as Oceania in high school, at least. I know in my college class is a lot more specific on the regions and details and stuff like that. So this is This is Oceania, and yeah, let's go back to Spain. All right, so Spain has one last thing to do on their to-do list, and that is to do some pretty evil stuff, but you'll see that eventually. But we have an incident that might be staged where Spanish troops cross over into Gibraltar and capture the exclave of Britain. With this, we have the UK declaring war on Spain, and an ancient rivalry has been reborn. Speaking of ancient rivalries, we have France joining this war on the side of Spain because, you know what? Let's make the last bit of this video really unrealistic. It's nice to have fun sometimes. So with this, the UK is well, they're not happy about this. And you know who else isn't happy about this? Ireland. They want that north back. So basically, it's one big British gangbang. It's not gonna end well for the UK unless something happens, which I'm not hinting towards anything, but something could happen. Anyway, we have Irish troops capturing all of Northern Ireland, but that's mostly because the British army isn't even there. Now you might be asking yourself, where is the British army? Oh god, they're doing it again. No, but seriously, they're actually over here in Brittany. They're also in Normandy. Now France's navy was down here for some reason, so Britain has the advantage in the waves, and they make a pretty sophisticated front up against France, and we have France surrendering. Just kidding. But we do have France holding a defensive line and pretty much stopping the advance of Britain. Speaking of Britain, they want their island back. Well, it's not their island, but they want it. So they reconquer Northern Ireland and start an advance into Ireland. We have the capturing of Dublin and a lot of guerrilla warfare because the Irish really don't like the British. Back down south, we have France pushing up and using a large majority of their army in order to push back Britain. They managed to almost kick the British out of Normandy while also almost kicking them out of Brittany. But here's where the big ouch comes in. We have Spain declaring war on France. Now Spain had no remorse here. They use this war to their advantage. We have the three probably most controversial the colonizers in history, all at war with each other, so I guess karma finally caught up with them. But Spain crossing over the mountains down here makes their advance into France, while we have the UK pushing back France in the north. The Spanish Navy makes an effort to capture Corsica, which they do so successfully, and eventually we have France being completely cut off from the sea. Now I know I'm extremely underestimating France here. France is stronger than both of these countries. If it was a 1v1, they'd be stronger. So yes, France is being underestimated here. And obviously France would not fall this easily. But ignoring that, we have Spain pretty much just doing a lot of slaughtering in the south. We have an encirclement of the Paris area. Eventually, after squeezing it down, only the city remains. And it is very far behind the enemy lines here. Eventually, we have France pretty much surrendering to the countries because that's what France does best. But now we have an interesting thing here because France is now a giant battlefield between the UK and Spain. We have the UK making land gains over here in western France, while Spain pushes up and manages to capture Paris. Spain manages to push up and separate the Ardennes area from the rest of France. That area then falls, but in return for that we have the UK pushing back Spain over here in the west. Now Spain is at risk of losing a lot of their army here because the UK could simply just do that, and that would not be good. So Spain starts to reorganize some of their troops over here to the west side of France. They push back up the coast and take a lot of the coastline, but since this war is not really fair for anyone, we have the UK taking back land over here. Eventually we have the two sides saying, you know what, this sucks, and we have a peace agreement coming forth. Alright, so peace treaty. We have France getting horrible new borders, and we have the UK getting Brittany and Normandy, and we have Spain getting a lot of southern France. French Guiana becomes Spanish Guiana, and all of France's useless islands become British because we all know the UK loves useless islands. And yeah, so that's gonna do it for Spain here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the states of Spain, or I should say like the imperial states. And yeah, there's only 4 total, so of course we have mainland Spain, which is actually consisting of all of this. We have a small French state up here, although this could easily be integrated into Spain. We have the state of Morocco and the state of Sahara. And then of course we have all the colonies over here in the Americas. So we have Hispaniola, we have Nicaragua, we have Venezuela, and we have Spanish Guiana. And overall, Spain's empire is looking great. This is definitely one of my better empire videos, I'd have to say. It's a lot of fun to make, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. It helps the channel grow, and it shows me that you guys are enjoying these videos. I recently did a 40,000 subscriber live stream for obviously 40k, and that was amazing. I had a lot of fun doing that, and I got to chat with you guys, which was awesome. So talking about goals just real quick, we recently hit 9 million total views for the channel. That's a big number, and one of my main goals for 2022 was 10 million total views. We're only in April and we've pretty much gotten there, so that's crazy. And another goal for 2022 was 50,000 subscribers. We're currently at 43,000, so we're getting there. We're almost there. And when we get there, there will be a big special. I say big, but it might be underwhelming. I'm not sure because it's not going to necessarily have anything to do with mapping, but content is content, and I hope you guys do enjoy it. So yeah, once again, if you enjoyed, just like, subscribe, help us get to our goals. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.